In this lesson, we'll look at a couple of different ways that we can start to connect some of the splines that we created for the tank. So before we create an actual surface for this tank, we need to start connecting this up. So we've got a kind of a cage here, but we don't have any of the cross members of that cage. So we need to look at a few ways to do that. So one of the ways that we can do this is using a modifier called cross section. And so to do this, I'm going to go ahead and take both of these splines here, and let's go ahead and detach those. So let's go ahead and go down to detach, and we'll just go ahead and detach that. And now both of these, they were kind of created from the same spline, so you can see that all of the points match up fairly well, and that's going to make creating the cross section fairly straightforward. So we're going to take the spline, go to the modifier list, and let's go ahead and add a cross section. And so it may look like this is sort of a wireframe, but it's actually just added splines. So this is still just splines, right? And I can, turn that off and on. So what's done is connected all of the points across and created this sort of a initial cage going across here, and created these kind of four-sided patches, or where patches will be. Okay. If we like to keep that, we can go ahead and convert that. You can see there are a few options here. We can choose whether these are smooth, linear, Bezier, or Bezier corner. You can't really see a difference because we're only doing a cross section between these 2 points. I'm going to go ahead and choose Bezier. If we were doing them between several at once, you would be able to see a little bit more of a difference. So let's go ahead and now collapse this. Yes, and that just collapses that into an editable spline. And now we've got all of these segments here as part of our spline cage that we're starting to build. So we can do that, do a cross section in that way. You could also come in here and let's say we want to do it right across these. You would just come in and do the same thing, just detaching these 3 splines and then doing a cross section across there. Now you can also start to connect everything manually. So let's go ahead and reattach this piece with everything else. So we'll go ahead and attach that. Let me go back into isolation mode here. And so now everything's back to being one piece, but we've got these extra segments here. So let's say we now want to manually come in and start to connect some of these up. So we'll go to vertex, and let's say that I want to start to, let's say, connect some of these across here. Okay, so maybe I want to connect this across this way. So what I'm going to do is go to Connect, Refine, click on one of these. I'll say Connect Only, and then click across to wherever I want to connect, and then right-click that. Now it's going to be a straight line there, okay, at this point. So I can go ahead and do that again, let's say up here. And you just start to connect some of these pieces up. For instance, here, I know that I want to come in and connect these two. So I'll go ahead and connect this to this. Okay. And then once we've got all of these connected, let's say that we want to, so we'll connect these. Let's say that we want to now kind of play with some of these points. If I go ahead and select this vertex here, you can see there's actually 2 vertices there. Because as we're connecting these, we're not really welding them together. In this case, for this one, I'm going to go ahead and weld this. So if you want to do that, you can just go down to Weld, and that'll weld that together. And then you can change the type of point it is, if you want it to be smooth, if you want it to be Bezier, okay, whatever you want it to be, you can change that. So now this is a continuous spline as it comes across here. Okay? And you can come in and start to connect all of these up, and it should make sense as far as what should connect up with what. If you want to add, if you need to add another point, you can do that just by going to Refine. I'll click on an existing point, and then I'll click out here where there's no point, just in the middle of a segment, and it'll add another point, and I'll right-click to finish that. So you can either connect 2 existing points, or you can just click across where there aren't any points. If you just find an area that you really need to connect up, you can go ahead and add that in. So what you want to do now is just come in and start refining across these different areas. Okay? Go ahead and refine across here, and just start connecting these up. Now in this case, you see if we look across here, we'll use this as kind of a case study, this section here. Right here it's going to be completely linear. So what we need to do is we're going to take this and bring it down. So I'll just do this little section here, and I'll just refine this kind of in the middle. Okay? Go ahead and pull that out. Now these points, if we go ahead and select that, are smooth. If I go ahead and take these, I can move these out and just help with the sort of the shape of that. So instead of being straight across, kind of bow that out a little bit. All right. So once you get your cage built in, and you can see, and the idea is to build these in sort of a four-sided ways. You know, you might have some triangles in some areas, but I usually try to maintain, you know, the four-sided geometry just like you would normally do. And so that's why we want to have a lot of these points matched up so that we can just come across and it makes a lot more sense how we need to connect these up. Maybe this one can come and connect up here. And so some of these you'll have to think a little bit about, but you can always come in and take these segments and delete those. You know, if you want to redraw something, you can delete the vertices as well, and so forth. All right, so you just want to come in and start to manually connect these up using refine and connect. And so down here, you know, I can come in and connect these up. Same thing here. So you just start to get this cage built out. Okay. And here, this is going to connect across here. So it really gives you a lot of control over sort of the topology of your object before you even create any geometry here. So you've got a little bit of the advantages of working with something like NURBS, but you also have some of the flexibility of working with polygons as well. So you can move those points around a little bit if you want. Come in and you can really customize the topology that you have there. Kind of connect that across. Okay, and maybe this point's still sticking out a little bit too far. Maybe it needs to come back, blend in with the body a little bit more, so we can always move that back. Okay, and I'm dragging across these because these are multiple vertices here. Okay, go ahead and just drag across here. All right, and so the main thing for me is just building out the correct topology that I like, and I'm going to go ahead and end it inside here. I don't need to fill that in because that's going to be kind of a hole anyway. So I'll go ahead and just draw these across. Okay, and you can draw across multiple at one time. Personally, I just sometimes like to come in and just do little sections at a time. Okay, so just kind of fill that out. You can see how that's starting to come together, and then how this sort of piece is starting to come together. Okay, and if you need to come in, and so if I add right across here, you can see that leaves us with a shape with more than four sides. So we could come across and refine this in a couple different ways. We could come across here and add that in if we wanted to do that. Okay, you can see how that gives us a more of a curved shape, whereas if we were to go in and just kind of refine it here and refine it here, it gives you a little bit more of a linear shape. I'm not as concerned about the curvature at this point. I mean, I do want the kind of the shape to be defined here, but I'm not as concerned with the curvature at these individual points because I know this is going to curve. I know that I'm going to convert this to a polygon in the end and add some detail to this. So my main concern at this point is getting the topology worked out. Okay, but I do want to pull out. You can see where this is kind of straight across and it cuts into the back there. I do probably want to come in and start to add some resolution in here, for instance, you know, something like that, and then come in and grab those vertices and just do a little bit of shaping to pull that out and shape that a little bit. Okay, so it's a little bit of kind of just playing around with it, doing a little bit of experimentation, and trying to figure out, you know, what the best move is. You kind of convert that, and then you maybe rotate that Bezier handle. The Bezier will give you a little bit more control over the tangency. If you've got smooth, you've pretty much stuck with what you've got there. Okay, so you can just kind of rotate that around and tighten it up a little bit. Okay, so just go in and using the same techniques, just draw this out. Okay, it's going to be the exact same thing. You're going to choose vertex, go to refine with connect on, and just draw across and right click. Okay, same thing here, and same thing here. Okay, just get that topology drawn out. It's just, at this point, it's just wires, so you can always go in and just delete one, redraw them. Keep in mind that we've got our point set the way we want to, but if you have something you need to connect and there's no point there, you can go ahead and still connect that up using refine, and it'll just drop a new point right on there. Okay, so let's go ahead and come in the next lesson with our cage drawn out, and I'll have the finished one there for you to look at as reference if you want to. And then we'll look at how we can actually add the geometry on top of this and how we can still tweak the shape of this once the geometry is on top of there. And then we'll go ahead and start to finish out this tank. All right, so we'll go ahead and do that next.